There are an estimated 6,000 to 10,000 shipwrecks throughout the Great Lakes, where tales of shipwrecks are legendary. Dramatic storms, November gales, are described in countless books, songs, and poems. Grizzled sailors from Two Harbors, Minnesota to Kingston, Ontario spin tragic yarns of lost schooners, barges, and iron-hulled lakers to anyone who will listen. The cold, oxygen-poor waters of the Five Sisters slow the decomposition of wood and metal, and wood-destroying shipworms, which are actually mollusks, do not exist in fresh water. Because of this, when a shipwreck is discovered, it is often in remarkably pristine condition, a time capsule allowing us to peer back to the moment of its demise. But some, stubbornly, refuse to be found. Lost on Lake Michigan, the SS Andaste, today on Shipwrecks and Sea Dogs. Hello and welcome to Shipwrecks and Sea Dogs, Tales of Mishaps, Misfortune, and Misadventure. I'm your host, Rich Napolitano. When we think of ships on the Great Lakes, we may imagine majestic schooners with stiff sails gliding across sparkling blue water, or the iron-hulled bulk carriers that came to dominate Great Lake shipping in the 20th century. The SS Andaste decidedly does not fit this glorious image. The Andaste was built in 1892 by the Cleveland Shipbuilding Company for the Lake Superior Iron Company. She measured 267 feet in length with a beam of 38 feet and could carry 3,000 tons of cargo. The unusual design of this ship is described as a semi-whaleback. A whaleback ship is characterized by its curved sides rising from the waterline, arching toward the top deck, making the visible portion resemble a whale surfacing at the waterline. A semi-whaleback like the Andaste had straight but sloped sides angling up from the waterline to its flat deck. The Andaste had a low, flat middle section with 7 hatches, a traditional bow section, and a raised deckhouse at the stern. The cargo hold was not divided into sections and had no bulkheads between the forward bulkhead and the engine bulkhead at the stern. Its triple expansion engine produced 900 horsepower, fueled by Scotch boilers. She and her almost identical sister ship, the Choctaw, were put into service carrying coal, pig iron, and iron ore across the Great Lakes. By 1898, the Lake Superior Iron Company had gone bankrupt, and both ships were transferred to the Cleveland Cliffs Iron Company. The Choctaw was lost in 1916 when she was rammed by the Canadian steamer Wakanda in Lake Huron, leaving the Andaste as the lone ship of this unique design. In the winter of 1920 to 1921, she was refitted and shortened from 267 feet to 244 feet. This allowed her to operate in the Welland Canal and St. Lawrence River, making her more useful and therefore more profitable. Despite these changes, the aging ship was becoming obsolete, as the new iron-hulled bulk freighters, nicknamed Lakers, came on the scene. In 1925, she was sold to Cliffs L.D. Smith Steamship Company and sent to Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin for another refit. The ship was modified to carry crushed stone and stone aggregate. Co-owner Leatham D. Smith designed a new self-unloading system for ships, which was installed on the Andaste. This system allowed the vessel to service ports that previously could not handle a bulk carrier. This system allowed the vessel to unload cargo anywhere without requiring additional equipment on shore. The patented machinery enabled the Andaste to service ports that previously could not handle a bulk carrier. However, the added derricks and supporting structures made her noticeably top-heavy. The 1920s brought an increased demand for gravel, rock, and sand, as the proliferation of automobiles created a need for paved roads and highways. The Andaste was perfectly suited for this demand and was chartered in 1928 to the Construction Materials Company of Chicago, delivering gravel, sand, and other materials to the city. The Andaste supplied the materials used to create a parkway that became Chicago's famed Lakeshore Drive. On September 9, 1929, the Andaste took on a cargo of gravel at the docks of Ferrysburg, Michigan, before departing for Chicago. At 9:03 p.m., the Coast Guard logged Andaste as she passed Grand Haven, Michigan, before she crossed southwest across the lake, a voyage she regularly made 4 times a week. The Andaste had become ubiquitous in the waters of southern Lake Michigan over the previous 2 years. By 10 p.m., a strong wind was forming, and conditions quickly worsened. Gale warnings had been posted in nearby ports, but these came too late for Captain Alfred L. Anderson to see them. More importantly, the vessel had no radio on board. Wireless radio technology existed at the time, but was not yet widely used by cargo ships. By 1 a.m. on September 10th, gale-force winds of 60 miles per hour raged across Lake Michigan. The crew of the SS Alabama later reported the storm's sudden and violent fury. When the Andaste did not arrive on time that day, little concern was raised, as late ships were not uncommon. As the hours passed, it was thought the Andaste might have taken shelter in another port. However, no other ports logged her arrival. When she still had not arrived by the morning of September 11th, alarms were raised, and a search began. Despite these efforts, no evidence of the Andaste was found, and it was feared she was lost. The search continued on September 12th, when Captain George Van Hall, aboard his tug Bertha G., found wreckage. Additional debris washed ashore from Grand Haven to Castle Park, including an oar and other fragments discovered by farmer George Getz. A vast floating field of debris was spotted near Holland, Michigan, including a door and hatch covers, later confirmed by a former crewman as belonging to the Andaste. On September 13th, the Associated Press announced the loss of the vessel, with all 25 on board presumed dead. The first body was recovered at Castle Park when H. Stibbs spotted debris offshore from his cottage. His son, J. Stibbs, a competitive swimmer, swam out and returned with a life ring stenciled Andaste, along with a deceased sailor. This life ring now resides in the Michigan Maritime Museum in South Haven. In time, 16 of the 25 crew were recovered, 11 of them wearing life jackets, evidence that they were aware of imminent danger. One of the missing was 14-year-old Earl Zeitlow on his very first voyage. The boy, serving as a steward's assistant, was allegedly last seen in the ship's galley peeling potatoes. Sadly, there were no survivors. Funeral arrangements for the 16 recovered were handled by Van Zantwick Funeral Home in Grand Haven. Here's Jennifer Keefer of the Grand Haven Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Van Zantwick was purchased by the Seitzma Funeral Home families, a local funeral home business that's been around for a long time. So they now are the Seitzma Funeral Home Van Zantwick Chapel, and I actually worked there as a secretary a few years back, but they are still in operation and are only a block from my office here on Washington Avenue.
An inquest into the loss of the Andaste was held in Holland, Michigan, with prominent members of the local business community serving on the jury. After examining the evidence and hearing testimony from 33 people, the jury concluded that the ship was in good condition, and that there was no negligence by the crew or its operators. Additionally, 3 recommendations were issued: that all large vessels operating on the Great Lakes be equipped with radio apparatus, that 5 central marine offices be established, 1 for each Great Lake, to officially report missing vessels, and that proper facilities be maintained on each of the 5 Great Lakes for immediate search and rescue. The likely cause of the sinking was determined to be the vessel being swamped in the trough of a wave. The Andaste's top-heavy structure and overall instability may have contributed to her loss. In fact, several other ships retrofitted with the self-unloading machinery had also been lost, including the Clifton in 1924 and the Hennepin in 1927. While the jury's recommendations carried no legal weight, they were taken seriously by both the Lake Carriers Association and the U.S. Coast Guard. Congress approved funding for a fleet of 6 Coast Guard cutters to be stationed at various points around the Great Lakes. One of those locations was Grand Haven, Michigan, the last port the Andaste visited.
The Escanaba was the first Coast Guard cutter to be stationed in Grand Haven. It first arrived in 1932, and the town was very proud of that vessel being here. Many people would come out to see her come back into port. Fortunately, June 13, 1943, during World War II, she sank. I guess they do not know why. There were some speculations that she drifted into a floating mine or there was something on board that exploded. But out of 103 crew members, only 2 survived. One was Seaman First Class Ray O'Malley, and I had the privilege to meet him at 2 of the memorial services that he attended here in Grand Haven. And the other was the Second Class Melvin Baldwin. So we honor the Escanaba through Escanaba Park in memory of the cutter and its crew. And many of them were connected with the city because they lived here. And the park has some buoys and the masts, the original masts that were originally on the ship. I was reading about it and saw that they had removed those for wartime. Those masts came down. And it was interesting to learn that the city raised over $1 million to have Escanaba 2 to be built in replacement of her. So there's a great park, beautiful green space right on the water next to our Coast Guard station across the street from our sector office.
As a result of these changes, along with other safety and navigational improvements, shipwrecks on the Great Lakes have steadily declined since the 1930s. The last major disaster was the loss of the Edmund Fitzgerald in 1975, with all 29 crew lost on Lake Superior. The exact location of the Andaste wreck remains unknown. Captain George Van Hall, who found the first wreckage, took accurate current readings the day after the sinking, and believed the ship went down 25 to 30 miles offshore. In contrast, local resident John Swift testified at the inquest that he saw a ship's lights at 1 a.m., relatively close to shore, and that the lights remained visible until 4 a.m. Contemporary news reports claim the Andaste went down off Port Sheldon, Michigan, in 360 feet of water. Finding the Andaste has become a priority for Great Lakes shipwreck hunters in recent years. In 2006, the Michigan Shipwreck Research Association, or the MSRA, began collecting artifacts from the wreck, including items recovered in the days immediately after the disaster. In 2010, the organization acquired an original 8-foot-long name board displaying Andaste. The board had been found near Port Sheldon, just days after the sinking, by local shop owner Gerald Gebbin, who displayed it proudly throughout his life. After his death, his son Bud Gebbin donated the artifact to the MSRA for preservation. In 2016, long-lost transcripts from the inquest were finally discovered, and MSRA researchers have been poring over the records for clues. Testimony included accounts from those who discovered wreckage and from the crew of the SS Alabama, who experienced the storm firsthand, and claimed to have seen the Andaste struggling. While the wreck may never be found, the MSRA continues to use modern technology in its search. In 2016, MSRA historian Valerie Van Heest stated, "We've searched now with the best, most modern side-scan sonar equipment, but we aren't sure where it is. It could be literally anywhere between Grand Haven and Chicago." A historical marker on the Grand Haven, Michigan waterfront commemorates the loss of the SS Andaste and the 25 men who perished.
The historical marker is down at Escanaba Park, and it is on the back side of the historical marker for the Escanaba, and it is titled Shipwrecks and the Coast Guard on the back. And it says that In autumn of 1929, raging storms sank 4 ships on Lake Michigan between Grand Haven and Milwaukee. So it's the town's way of commemorating and recognizing those lives lost. A lot of family members were still here from those ships.
The U.S. Coast Guard provides emergency rescue, law enforcement, and maritime safety guidance for the Great Lakes, but their presence has also become an integral part of the communities it serves.
We were the first city in the nation to receive the official title of Coast Guard City, USA, and it was by an act of Congress under Bill Clinton's administration in 1998. It recognizes the community's longstanding partnership with the Coast Guard and continued support for the Coast Guard personnel and families. We do have our annual Coast Guard Festival, which is a week-long celebration, and it's been going on for over the last 100 years. It gets bigger and bigger, and last year was recorded as having over 400,000 people attend, which brings many visitors, obviously, and repeat visitors to the area and revenue to our area.
I'd like to thank Jennifer Keefer of the Grand Haven Area Convention and Visitors Bureau for her assistance with this episode, and for doing a bit of fact-finding for me. For information about visiting the Grand Haven area, please go to visitgrandhaven.com, and you can also follow on social media at Visit Grand Haven Area. That's going to do it for Lost on the Great Lakes, the SS Andaste. Thank you so much for listening. Shipwrecks and Sea Dogs is written, edited, and produced by me, Rich Napolitano. Original theme music is by Sean Siegfried, and you can find him at seansiegfried.com. All back episodes, show notes, and show merchandise can be found at shipwrecksandseadogs.com. For ad-free listening, please join the Officers Club at patreon.com/shipwreckspod. For just $5 a month, you will get at least 2 bonus episodes a month, and all episodes are ad-free. That's patreon.com/shipwreckspod. Last but not least, be sure to rate and review the show in your podcast app and tell a friend. I would very much appreciate it. Please join me again next time. But until then, don't forget to wear your life jackets.